So the title of this video is Open Air Preacher is Mentally Ill. And the reason that I say that is because if you look at Open Air Preacher and some of his tactics, he's really denying reality in order to kind of form this persecution complex, number one. Number two, this kind of delusional fantasy idea about who we are and who our community is. And I think that kind of fuels his life right now, because I don't think he's in a very healthy or happy place in where he is. So I'm just going to go through his video and kind of critically analyze some of his points and see if we can't point out, what it is that makes him mentally ill. Now, right off the bat in Open Air Preacher's video, he mentions me and the cussing that I did basically in my videos to Fractal Fires, where I was defending basically not just the Wicked Raven, but all pagan children from his comments saying that they were better off dead. And he claims that somehow me cussing in a video is harm and makes me a hypocrite, which is it's stupid for several reasons. First, because Open Air Preacher either ignores or denies that there's different traditions in witchcraft with different ethical philosophies. My ethical philosophy is different than the Wiccan ethical philosophy that says, and harm you none, do what thou will. Many Wiccans will say that they don't harm people. I say that basically I refrain from harming people unless it's absolutely necessary. And because I still believe that we have retribution for our actions, that there is reciprocal energy and things like that. But you could tell this to Open Air Preacher several times, and he would still reiterate to you the same point, because in his mind, he wants us all to be exactly the same. Secondly, I'm not sure how my cussing harmed him in any way, shape, or form. I was simply calling out the situation and showing what a hypocrite and a coward Fractal Fires was being for using that type of language. If anything, my video was trying to do the most good by pointing him out as a bad person, therefore not inciting further hate speech from other Christians or other people on YouTube. Now, although I do try to refrain from swearing in many of my videos, sometimes I do believe that it's necessary to get one's point across, to use emphatic words and phrases to show emotion, to show emphasis in certain places. And so that's why I chose to do that video a little angry and, a little harsh towards that individual, because I didn't think that he deserved my respect. But disrespect is not harm. It's just not respect. Open Air Preacher was saying that the reason we were upset was because he said we needed to find Jesus, Fractal Fires that is. But that's not why we were upset. We were upset because he said that Wicked Raven's baby was better off dead. And really, the way that he said it, he was saying that all pagan children are better off dead than having pagan parents. But of course, if Open Air Preacher admits this, then he has to admit that we had a reason for our anger, instead of acting like we are these crazy witchcraft aggressors that he's trying to characterize us as. And it's either completely disingenuous or delusional. I'm betting that it's the latter. Then he starts talking about me and the Wicked Raven bringing up unborn children, which of course we didn't bring it up, Fractal Fires did. But he was, basically completely lied about what Fractal Fires said and what made us angry. He acts like we had no reason to be angry, and then goes forward to say that we were angry, something to do with our unborn children, and doesn't really put it into context what it is that we said at all. He obviously watched the video if he knew that we talked about unborn children, but he didn't mention the context at all, which shows that, once again, he's either lying to make his point, or he's completely delusional. Open Air Preacher then starts to assume that the Wicked Raven and myself would harm our unborn children. I'm not sure why it is that he thinks that we would do that, other than the fact that he has a very delusional and fantastical idea of what witchcraft is. And regardless of how many people have pointed out that he's wrong about his ideas about witchcraft, he refuses to admit that anything we say has any value. Because he has an innate hatred towards people from our group. which of course bigotry to me is a form of mental illness anyways, but it's a small form of mental illness. His delusion goes further than this. It doesn't matter who were to bring this up to him. If another Christian were to come up to him and try to tell him he's wrong about witchcraft, he would say, you're working for the other side or whatever. He won't believe anybody. And that's where the delusion really sets in, is that he has clung to this idea that witches are inherently evil. And so it doesn't matter what we say to him, he's going to stick to that idea and claim that everything that we say is therefore false. So we can show ourselves doing charity and helping children and all that. He would say, that's a trick from Satan, you're all evil. He even has the audacity to try to take the moral high ground when he has constantly attacked our community over and over again. You see, in his delusion, he feels justified in doing so. He feels righteous in doing so. And it doesn't matter what we do, if we are silent, he will feel more righteous. If we defend ourselves, he will feel more righteous, because anything we do, he's going to take what he needs from it to fuel his delusion. Open-air preacher even claims there's things in the Bible that aren't there, as far as I know. He claims that there's stories in the Bible about people sacrificing children to Satan, and I couldn't find anything about it in the copy of the Bible we have or on BibleGateway.com. I couldn't find it. So he's claiming that there's child sacrifice to Satan in the Bible, but I couldn't find that. What I did find was instances of child sacrifice by Jews and Christians to their God, including, of course, the sacrifice of Jesus, the sacrifice of Jephthah's virgin daughter, and then, of course, Abraham's attempted sacrifice of Isaac. You know, these instances were three of probably many instances of child sacrifice done by the Jews and by the Christians. You know, if we look at the burning times, we can see how many people were killed because of their religion. But we don't have the same statistics for our religion. This is a bait and switch. They're trying to act like we're the ones that are the murderers when they really have no evidence of that. He claims that the pagan community is somehow evil or wrong because we have responded to his videos. The funny thing is that he, of course, ignores his own responses. And this is a classic mental illness. It happens a lot with people who harm children and things like that. They don't recognize their own actions as evil, but yet project that onto others. And so everybody else is evil, I'm the good one, and all my actions are justified. Everybody else's actions are evil. But if you really look at what he's done, he's been the aggressor in this entire situation. And we've been the one defending our religion, defending our faith. But because we defended our religion, somehow we are the evil aggressors to him, because he doesn't consider his own actions aggressive or wrong in any shape, way, shape, or form. Open-air preacher goes forward to say in this video and in other videos that somehow we are afraid of the message of the gospel, or the gospel angers us. But really it had nothing to do with the Bible. It had to do with the offensive comments coming from him and from Fractal Fires and other people within their group. What they've been doing is trying to incite us and then using that incitement against us without putting their own actions into context whatsoever. Of course, that's delusional. But the thing is, I don't think they're all delusional, because if you notice, open-air preacher is the only one who's been doing videos about it. The rest of them have been very careful not to put it in their videos. You want to know why? Because they know those videos can get flagged. And if those videos get flagged, then of course their accounts will go down and so forth and so on. So they're going to let open-air preacher do the dirty work for them until his account gets suspended, basically. We can see definitely his mental illness at the end of his video, to me, that it's righteous indignation. He feels very righteous in what he's saying, that witchcraft is evil, and I have proven that witchcraft is evil because I swore in a video. Now, of course, what he's leaving out is the fact that what was said to me to cause me to swear was much more vile than any curse word that could come out of my mouth. But of course, that doesn't matter, and he's completely ignoring that fact, because that does not fuel his delusion. What does fuel his delusion is my anger. So it doesn't matter if we had not responded to that video, that non-response would have been confirmation that he was justified. If we had responded, as we did, then that would have been confirmation that his actions were justified. It does not matter, because what he's looking for is something that will confirm his feeling, and he's going to ignore everything else. Now, of course, the last thing that we need to remember, and when it comes to what obviously may have fueled his further mental illness, because I talked to Open Air Preacher maybe 2 years ago, and he was not this insane. He still had some very extreme ideas, but he was reasonable and rational to a certain extent. Right now, he's not really displaying any reason whatsoever, because he's not taking anything we say into context whatsoever. He's not, digesting that information. He's just taking what he can use to fuel his delusion. So, but back then, as far as I know, he wasn't living in a van down by the river. And now he's this isolated person who looks like he's been isolated from family. He doesn't look like he has a church. He goes out and picks fights with other Christians too, living in a van down by the river. This is the person that's attacking us. He's obviously insane. And his insanity has gotten worse as time's progressed, even though he's been on YouTube for quite a while. At least 2 years, I would say, because of his isolation from society. He now thinks that everybody that doesn't believe exactly the way that he does, even other Christians, is evil and against him, because this fuels his persecution complex. It makes him feel important. And so what I hope is that those people who are close to Open Air Preacher and that he actually talks and listens to would encourage him to get some help for his mental illness. But instead, what they're doing basically is taking advantage of this man and his mental illness to get their point across as well, so they can sit back and keep their YouTube channels, because they're letting him do all the dirty work while they don't make any videos about it. If you notice, the comments that they've made have been on his comment page primarily, and they have not made any videos or made any attempt to contact anybody in any video form that we can get on audio or anything like that, because they know if that happens, they could be in trouble. They are not delusional, but they're taking advantage of a delusional man in order to basically get jollies. So Open Air Preacher may be a bigot, and he may have always been a bigot, but now he's a delusional bigot. As for Fractal Fires and the rest of their crew that's letting him do this, well, I would just consider them to be sadists. So I think really the best way to combat Open Air Preacher is to give him your condolences. To tell him that you're sorry that he is so mentally ill, that he must believe fantasy things about us, and that he has to fuel his persecution complex. And just repeat this over and over again, that, that he is mentally ill, that his isolated state has caused his mental illness, and that he needs to seek help for what's going on with him. Because obviously his friends are not going to do this. Maybe the people that he's fighting against can help him.